The suitcase lay open on my bed, half filled with pieces of a life breaking apart. Clothes, photographs, notebooks, all scattered like evidence of a crime I didn't commit. Outside, rain streaked the window, whispering against the glass like it pitied me. Downstairs, Father's voice echoed, clipped and cold, issuing commands to no one in particular. Mother cried softly behind a closed door. I folded a sweater and tried not to think. Every motion felt mechanical, as if someone else controlled my hands. The phone buzzed on the desk. A message from Mai. Maybe you should just do what they said. Her words hit harder than Father's ultimatum. I wanted to scream, but only silence came out. Then another message appeared. A screenshot. Nam's name at the top. His words beneath hers. Your sister needs to take care of this. I can't be a father. My lungs stopped working. The room tilted sideways. My knees hit the carpet before I felt the pain. So they had been talking all along. The betrayal cut deeper than the rejection. My perfect sister, my mirror image. Nam, the boy who once traced stars on my skin. Together, behind my back. I pressed my palms against my stomach and felt nausea rise. In the mirror, my face looked pale, almost transparent. The girl staring back was no longer me. She was someone new, someone burned clean by truth. I wanted to throw the phone, to destroy proof of what I'd seen. But instead I scrolled. More messages. Dates. Nicknames. Months of lies hiding behind polite smiles at family dinners. The bile rose again. I barely made it to the bathroom before retching. When it was over, I sat on the cold tile floor, shaking. The air smelled like antiseptic and heartbreak. My body felt foreign, heavier somehow. I wiped my mouth and stood up slowly. There was no one left to rely on. No one who hadn't chosen convenience over me. Back in the bedroom, Mai stood at the door, phone clutched tight. You saw, she said. Her voice carried neither guilt nor apology. How long? I asked. She looked away. Since February. 5 months. 5 months of smiling in my face while sleeping with him. I laughed, bitter and raw. You encouraged me to tell them, didn't you? Her silence was answer enough. I folded another shirt. Each fold a decision. Each movement a goodbye. You're ruining your future, she whispered. No, I said, I'm saving it. When she left, the room felt lighter. I reached for the old business card in my wallet. Aunt and Gok's handwriting still clear after all these years. If you ever need me, call. No questions asked. My fingers trembled as I traced the numbers. The clock read 11:40 p.m. I picked up the phone and dialed. Her voice answered on the first ring. Sweetheart, I've been waiting for your call. For the first time that night, I breathed. I wasn't alone anymore. Morning light spilled across the floor like an unwelcome guest. I hadn't slept, only waited for the hours to pass. Downstairs, Father's voice carried through the air vents. Yes, Principal Robert, Lan will be taking a leave of absence. His tone was calm, rehearsed, stripped of emotion. He spoke as if I were a project being canceled. Mother's softer voice followed. Please add us to the prayer list. We're facing a family trial. I could almost hear the pity in her words. By noon, the whole church would know I'd become the scandal. I sat on my bed clutching my backpack. Inside were clothes, savings, and my student ID. Each item proof that I had once belonged somewhere. The phone vibrated on the nightstand. Nam's name flashed on the screen. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. His voice was casual, like we were strangers sharing small talk. I can get you some money, 800 maybe. My cousin knows a clinic. The words felt dirty, hollow, practiced. Dr. Wynne said I might never have kids if I do this, I replied. He sighed. That's not my problem, Lan. Take it or don't. Laughter echoed behind him, music from a party. He had already moved on. When the call ended, I stared at the wall until my vision blurred. The silence afterward was louder than his voice. Something inside me cracked but didn't break. I stood, steadying myself with the dresser. I needed to act before fear decided for me. Father kept all the important documents in the study safe. The code hadn't changed since I was 12. Their anniversary. 5/14. The safe clicked open with a small metallic sigh. I pulled out my birth certificate, school records, and the cash I'd saved. Pieces of paper that said I existed, even if no one wanted me. I slipped them into my bag and zipped it shut. Mother's perfume lingered in the hallway as I passed. Her bedroom door was closed, her prayers muffled. In the kitchen, a family photo hung crooked on the wall. 4 smiling faces from a trip to the mountains. The picture felt like a lie now. Outside, the wind carried the smell of pine and rain. I dialed the number from Aunt and Gawk's card. My hands trembled so much, I nearly dropped the phone. She answered before the first ring ended. "Lan, is that really you?" My throat tightened. "Yes, I need to leave." "No questions, remember. Pack what matters. We'll be there by morning." Her certainty steadied me. After the call, I sat in the kitchen with a glass of water. Mother appeared in the doorway, face pale, robe pulled tight. "You'll regret this forever," she whispered. "You're not protecting me," I said quietly. "You're protecting yourselves from explaining me." Her expression faltered, then hardened again. I walked past her toward the stairs. Each step heavier, each breath clearer. By dawn, headlights glowed outside. Aunt and Gawk's truck waited at the curb. When she hugged me, I finally let the tears fall. It was the sound of a door closing and another one opening. The truck rumbled down the highway, carrying everything I owned in 2 suitcases. Beside me, Aunt and Gawk hummed softly, her hand resting on mine. "Rest, sweetheart," she said. "You're safe now." The word safe felt foreign, almost heavy. Outside, dawn painted the mountains in faint pink and gold. For the first time in days, I let my eyes close. When I woke, we were pulling into a small house with blue shutters. Uncle Howe stood by the porch, waving with a smile that reached his eyes. He smelled of pine and coffee, warmth I hadn't known in years. "You're home," he said simply. The word made me want to cry. Days turned into weeks. I found a job at a diner, wiping tables and pouring coffee. At night, I studied for community college exams. Morning sickness hit hard, but I refused to stop. Each paycheck went into a small jar labeled Future. Aunt and Gawk cooked soups filled with ginger and care. "You remind me of your mother when she was young," she said once. I didn't know whether that was comfort or warning. One evening, as rain tapped against the window, she told me about TU letter 1EA5N. I froze mid-bite. "Who's TU letter 1EA5N?" I asked. She hesitated, eyes softening. "Your brother." The room tilted. "I don't have a brother." "You did. He was 17 when your parents sent him away." My stomach turned cold. "Why?" Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Because he told them he liked boys." The spoon slipped from my fingers and clattered onto the bowl. I thought of Father's sermons about strength, discipline, obedience. I thought of Mother's prayers for perfection. They had practiced exile long before me. Tears blurred the edges of everything. I wasn't the first to be erased. The realization hurt, but it also freed something deep inside. I wasn't defective. I was simply not what they wanted. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat by the window, one hand on my belly. "Your Uncle TU letter 1EA5N exists," I whispered to the life inside me. "And so will you." The moonlight glinted on the jar of coins. A promise, fragile but real. Days grew longer as summer approached. I started feeling kicks, small, fluttering reminders of resilience. At work, Gloria the manager teased me about my stubbornness. "You're gonna run this place someday," she laughed. Maybe she was right. Every shift, every class, every ache built something solid. Aunt Ngak hung my photographs on her living room wall. Landscapes, portraits, pieces of who I was before everything broke. You still have an eye for beauty, she said. Maybe broken things see beauty best, I replied. By autumn, I'd saved enough for tuition. The campus smelled like rain and possibility. When I looked in the mirror before my first class, I saw someone new. Not a disgrace. Not a mistake. A survivor learning how to begin again. Winter came early that year, crisp air seeping through the cracks of the small apartment. I balanced bills on the kitchen table, pencil tucked behind my ear. Every number mattered now. Rent, groceries, diapers. Each coin counted meant one more day of peace. When contractions began, Aunt Ngok held my hand through every breath. You're doing fine, Lan, she whispered. Hours later, the cry of my son filled the room. An tiny, perfect, alive. I couldn't stop staring at him. The nurse asked if I wanted to call my family. I shook my head. They made their choice. So did I. Days blurred into sleepless nights and quiet mornings. Between feedings, I studied psychology and photography. Between shifts at the diner, I memorized flashcards. My body ached, but my will didn't break. Every smile from him made the fatigue worth it. Gloria, my manager, left free meals at the counter. You're stronger than you think, she'd say. Sometimes, I almost believed her. A letter arrived one afternoon, stamped from my old town. The handwriting was familiar. I hesitated before opening it. Lan, I heard you had a baby. His name is beautiful. The next lines felt colder. Ba is running for city council. He's talking about family values. My fingers tightened around the paper. The irony burned. Mai wrote that she missed me, but her words were hollow. She still lived inside that careful silence I'd escaped. I didn't reply. Instead, I kissed Anne's forehead and whispered, We build our own values. Months passed. My grades improved. My savings jar filled slowly. One night, I received an unexpected email from my professor. Congratulations, Lan. You made the dean's list. I printed the message and taped it to the fridge. A tiny victory, but entirely mine. At the diner, Gloria clapped my shoulders. You'll be managing this place someday. I laughed, though tears stung my eyes. Each compliment felt like sunlight breaking through a cloud. Anne Ngok baked a cake with strawberry frosting. She placed a candle in the center. For your first year of freedom, she said. I blew it out, thinking of everything I'd survived, and giggled in his high chair, smearing frosting on his cheeks. He didn't know the weight his life carried. He just existed, proof that love can grow from ruin. Later that night, as he slept beside me, I whispered promises. You'll never feel unwanted. You'll never doubt your worth. The moonlight brushed across his face. I remembered Father's words, his cold command. 48 hours to leave. But I had turned those hours into a lifetime. Not perfect, not easy, but mine. I was no longer the frightened girl at the dining table. I was a mother. And that changed everything. The call came on a Tuesday afternoon, the sky heavy with summer heat. A familiar voice broke through the static. Lan, it's Mai. Ba and M1EB9 are coming to see you. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. 3 years of silence collapsed into that single sentence. They said it's important, Mai added, then hung up. I stood frozen, the phone still pressed to my ear. When the knock came that weekend, I was ready. I wore my work uniform, name tag shining beneath the hotel lights. Father looked the same, stern posture, polished shoes, a politician's smile. Mother's pearls glimmered under her scarf, hands trembling slightly. Lan, Father said, voice carefully measured. You look well. I didn't invite them to sit, but they did anyway. The restaurant lobby hummed with low conversation. He cleared his throat. I'm running for state senate. We're promoting family unity. Mother forced a smile. We thought maybe a few public photos together would help everyone. Help everyone. The words tasted like rust. You mean help your campaign, I said quietly. Father's expression hardened. This could benefit you too. We can offer financial support for N. My stomach clenched. His name on their lips felt like contamination. And doesn't need your money, I said. He has love, something you never gave freely. Mother's eyes welled with tears. Please, don't be cruel. Cruel, I laughed softly. Cruel was telling your daughter she had 48 hours to disappear. Father's face darkened. That was discipline. No, I said, meeting his eyes. That was cowardice. The silence stretched thin as glass. Then I stood. I built a life without you. I don't need to borrow your integrity. Mother reached for my hand, but I stepped back. Her touch felt like a ghost from another world. They left without finishing their coffee. The next day, a message appeared in my inbox. From TU letter 1EA5N. I saw the news. I think we should meet. He was older than in the photos I found online, eyes soft but strong. We sat across from each other at a cafe filled with music and chatter. I read your story, he said. And I read yours, I replied. We didn't need to explain what it meant to be erased. We simply existed, side by side, survivors of the same storm. Weeks later, he invited me to his book launch in our hometown. The hall was packed. Reporters, neighbors, faces from a past I'd buried. Halfway through his reading, he looked up. I'd like to introduce my sister, Lan. Gasps rippled through the crowd as I walked to the stage. Father and mother sat in the front row, their smiles fading. When TU letter 1EA5N handed me the microphone, my hands didn't shake. When I was 19, I said, I was told to end my pregnancy or leave. I left. Because love shouldn't come with conditions. Cameras flashed. Mother wept silently. Father stood, but the crowd blocked his escape. Their perfect image shattered in a single moment of truth. I felt no triumph, only release. The weight I'd carried for years finally lifted. I was free. The years after the scandal unfolded quietly, like a slow sunrise after a long storm. I built a new rhythm, steady and calm, and grew taller, his laughter filling every corner of our small house. KH letter 1EA3, I came into our lives like gentle rain. He never asked about the past, only about the future. We married in the backyard, under strings of borrowed lights. No photographers, no speeches, just promise and truth. Aunt Ngot cried softly, holding it in her arms. This is how family should feel, she whispered. Time carried us forward. Our daughter Lynn was born one bright spring morning. Her first cry sounded like forgiveness. We bought a modest home near the hills, painted the shutters blue. Every wall held a photograph, proof of a life rebuilt from ashes. TU letter 1EA5 and visited often, bringing his husband and stories from his travels. We laughed over tea, sometimes cried without shame. He called it healing. I called it survival. We began a foundation together, for young single parents like I once was. Each scholarship felt like rewriting history in softer ink. Letters from strangers arrived, filled with gratitude and courage. They called me brave, but I only felt human. One evening, as twilight settled, a letter arrived with a Denver postmark. The handwriting was shaky but familiar. Lan, I've started therapy. I want to understand what we did to you. If you're willing, maybe we could start with letters. Your sister, Mai. I read it 3 times before folding it carefully. Old wounds ached, but they no longer ruled me. I placed the letter in a drawer beside An's first photo. Some bridges collapse, others wait patiently for repair. Weeks passed, and our annual Found Family Day approached. We set tables in the garden, fairy lights blinking against the dusk. Tu letter 1EA5N raised his glass. To love chosen freely, he said. Anangok added, and to second chances. I stood, feeling the pulse of life beneath my palm. I have something to share, I said, smiling. KH letter 1EA3, I looked up, eyes wide. I nodded. We're expecting again. The cheers rose like music. And jumped, shouting that he'd be a big brother. Lynn clapped her small hands, face glowing with delight. Later, when the night grew quiet, I walked alone beneath the lanterns. Their soft glow reminded me of the dining room chandelier years ago. But this light felt different, warm, forgiving, alive. I thought of Mai's letter, of Father's silence, of Mother's absence. They were still part of me, but no longer my cage. Anne's laughter drifted from the house, a melody of everything I fought for. I whispered to the stars, we made it. Family, I realized, isn't always blood or duty. It's the people who stay when the world walks away. And as the wind carried the scent of jasmine through the garden, I knew I was home. Morning sunlight spilled across the kitchen table, warm and golden. And worked on his school project beside a mug of cocoa. Lynn hummed quietly, coloring the edge of her paper tree. Their laughter drifted like music through the open window. I helped him glue the final photo onto his family chart. The top branch read, Family by Blood. Below it, he'd written names I hadn't spoken in years. Then another branch stretched wider, brighter. Family by Love, it said in careful handwriting. There were photos of Aunt and Gok, Uncle Hao, TU letter 1EA5N, and KH letter 1EA3I. And drawings of Lynn, N, and a tiny heart for the baby to come. I felt tears rise but didn't stop them. And looked up. Do we need more branches, Mom? I smiled. There's always room for more, I said. He grinned, proud of his work. Outside, the garden shimmered with morning dew. Every petal, every leaf felt like a promise kept. I placed my hand over the small curve of my belly. Once, 48 hours had meant exile. Now, it meant eternity. Love had rewritten everything.